The penthouse wall felt cold against Adesewa's back, but the man standing inches from her radiated heat like a furnace. Kang Minjae's hand was braced beside her head, his knuckles white with the effort of restraint. He wasn't touching her, not yet, but the space between them crackled with something dangerous, something that made her pulse race and her breath catch in her throat. "You're shaking," he said, his voice low and controlled. "I'm furious," Adesewa shot back, forcing herself to meet those dark, calculating eyes. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You're a terrible liar." She was lying. God help her, she was lying through her teeth. Because what she felt wasn't anger. It was terror mixed with something far more dangerous. Want. Need. The kind of pull that made smart women do stupid things. And Kang Minjae was the stupidest thing she could ever want. The silent serpent. The man who controlled Hanul City's underworld with whispered commands and cold precision. The man who made politicians sweat and rivals disappear. The man who wore power like a second skin and violence like other men wore cologne. "How did we get here?" she whispered, hating how her voice trembled. His gaze dropped to her lips. "You spilled champagne on me." "That's not what I meant." "I know." He leaned closer, and she could smell his cologne. Something expensive and dark. "But that's where it started, isn't it? One moment, one choice. One woman who looked at me like I was just a man." "You're not just a man." "No," he agreed, his voice dropping even lower. "Shana, I'm the monster your mother warned you about." Before we dive deeper into this dangerous love story, hit that subscribe button if you're ready for a romance that breaks all the rules. And comment below, would you risk everything for the wrong person? Let's find out together. 3 weeks earlier, the Lotus Grand Hotel glittered like a palace. All marble floors and crystal chandeliers, and people who wore their wealth like armor. Adesewa moved through the crowd with practiced invisibility, her tray of champagne flutes balanced perfectly despite the ache in her feet. This was her third job this week. Hospital cleaner in the mornings, office building at night, and events like this whenever she could get them. Her body screamed for rest, but rest didn't pay for experimental surgeries in foreign countries. Rest didn't save her brother, Tunde, her baby brother, 20 years old and trapped in a body that barely responded. A car accident that the doctors in Lagos said had damaged his brain beyond repair. But there was hope, a clinic in Switzerland, a procedure that might bring him back. Might. Man, and it cost more money than Adesewa would earn in a decade of scrubbing toilets. So she didn't rest. She couldn't afford to. "Miss!" A harried waiter grabbed her arm. "VIP section, now. They're asking for service." Adesewa adjusted her grip on the tray and headed toward the roped-off area where the real elite gathered. The people who ran Hanul City from the shadows. She'd learned not to look at them too closely, not to remember their faces or their conversations. Invisibility was survival. She slipped through the velvet rope and began circulating, offering champagne with downcast eyes and a professional smile. The guests barely glanced at her. Just another servant, another invisible brown face in their glittering world, until she turned too quickly. The champagne flute tilted, the golden liquid arcing through the air in terrible slow motion. Adesewa watched in horror as it splashed across a pristine, white suit jacket, the expensive fabric darkening with the stain. The room went silent. Not just quiet, silent, as if every person had stopped breathing at once. Adesewa looked up at the man she'd just ruined, and her heart dropped into her stomach. She didn't know his name, but she knew his face. Everyone in Hanul City knew that face, even if they'd never seen it up close. Sharp features, cold eyes, an expression carved from ice. Kang Minjae, the silent serpent. The man people whispered about in frightened tones. The man who controlled the ports, the hospitals, the politicians. The man who never raised his voice because he didn't need to. His reputation did the shouting for him. And Adesewa had just dumped champagne all over him. She started, but her voice died in her throat. Everyone was staring. The other guests had backed away, creating a circle of empty space around them. Even the waiters had frozen, their faces pale with secondhand terror. Minjae looked down at his ruined jacket. Then his eyes lifted to meet hers. Adesewa's survival instincts screamed at her to drop to her knees, to beg, to cry and plead for mercy. That's what he would expect. what everyone would expect. But something stubborn and reckless rose up in her chest. She was tired. She was exhausted. She was working herself to death for a brother half a world away, and she was invisible to everyone in this godforsaken city. And if she was going to lose this job and probably get blacklisted from every other job in Hanul City, she might as well do it on her own terms. "Fire me if you want," she said quietly, meeting his gaze, "but don't touch me." The silence somehow deepened. Minjae's expression didn't change. He simply looked at her, his dark eyes unreadable. Seconds stretched into an eternity. Then he did something no one expected. He smiled. Just a slight curve of his lips, barely visible, but it was there. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice cultured and calm. "Adesewa," she said, refusing to look away even though her knees were shaking. "Adesewa Akinwell." "Adesewa." He tested the name, his Korean accent wrapping around the syllables. "You're not afraid of me." "I didn't say that." "But you're not begging." "Would it help?" she asked, hearing the exhaustion in her own voice. His smile widened fractionally. "No." He turned to one of his men, a tall man with sharp features who'd moved to Minja's side. "Baek Sung-hun." "Yes, sir." "Find out where Miss Akinwell works. All of her jobs." Adesewa's stomach dropped. This was it. He was going to destroy her life. But Minjae wasn't finished. "And arrange for her to be reassigned. I need someone to clean my penthouse." The room erupted in barely contained whispers. "Sir," Seong-hun said carefully, "are you certain?" "Did I stutter?" Minjae's voice remained soft, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. "No, sir. I'll arrange it immediately." Minjae looked back at Adesewa. "Report to Hanil Tower tomorrow morning. 6th floor. Someone will be waiting." "I don't," Adesewa started. "That wasn't a request. Miss Akinwell." He pulled off his ruined jacket and handed it to Seong-hun without looking at him. "And bring better balance next time. That champagne was worth more than you make in a month." He walked away, the crowd parting for him like the Red Sea. Adesewa stood frozen, her tray clutched in white-knuckled hands, trying to process what had just happened. A woman beside her, one of the other servers, leaned close. "Do you know who that was?" "Kang Minjae," Adesewa whispered. "The silent serpent," the woman confirmed. "They say he's been at war with Director Kwan's syndicate for months. Brutal stuff. Bodies in the harbor. Entire businesses burned to the ground." She shook her head. "And you just dumped champagne on him." "Who's Director Kwan?" Adesewa asked, her voice hollow. "Runs the east side. Old money, old power. He and Kang have been circling each other like sharks." The woman touched Adesewa's arm. "Be careful, honey. Men like that don't hire cleaners. They hire leverage." The words settled into Adesewa's stomach like stones. But she had no choice. Jobs were scarce. Bills were mounting. Tunda was dying. So she would report to Hanul Tower tomorrow, and she would pray this wasn't the biggest mistake of her life. Hanul Tower dominated the skyline like a spike of glass and steel, all sharp edges and reflecting surfaces that turned the building into a mirror of the city itself. Adesewa stood at the entrance, staring up at the monolith and wondering if she was making the biggest mistake of her life. She could walk away, find another job, pretend last night never happened. But jobs were hard to come by for immigrant women with accented Korean and no connections. And this job, whatever it actually was, had to pay better than scrubbing hospital floors at 4 in the morning. Besides, Tunde needed her. Every one counted. She pushed through the revolving doors into a lobby that screamed wealth. Marble everywhere. Modern art that probably cost more than a house. Security guards in suits that fit too well to be anything but expensive. "To Adesewa Akinwale?" A woman in a crisp business suit approached, her expression neutral. "Follow me." They rode the elevator in silence. The woman, she never gave her name, led Adesewa through a maze of corridors until they reached a door marked private. "Inside," the woman said. "Your supplies are in the closet. Mr. Kang expects discretion and thoroughness. You are not to speak to him unless spoken to. You are not to touch anything on his desk or in his private office. You are not to ask questions." "Understood," Adesewa said. The woman's expression softened slightly. "A word of advice, whatever you did last night to catch his attention, don't do it again. Mr. Kang's interest is never a good thing. The last woman who worked here disappeared after 2 months. Adesewa's blood ran cold. Disappeared. Reassigned officially. But nobody's seen her since. The woman's eyes held a warning. Keep your head down. Do your job. Don't get curious. Then she was gone, leaving Adesewa alone in the penthouse. It was beautiful. Minimalist and cold, all clean lines and muted colors, but beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of Hanoi City that took her breath away. She could see the whole glittering metropolis spread out below like a kingdom. His kingdom. Adesewa found the cleaning supplies and got to work. She'd expected luxury, but this was something else. Every surface was already spotless. The furniture looked like it belonged in a museum. Even the plants were perfect, their leaves glossy and arranged just so. What kind of man lived like this? Like a showroom, like a place to be admired but never touched. She worked methodically, and cleaning what was already clean, dusting surfaces that held no dust. Hours passed. Her back ached. Her feet screamed. But she kept going, because that's what she did. She endured. It was late afternoon when she made her mistake. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. Adesewa had been avoiding it. Bedrooms felt too personal, too intimate, but she was supposed to clean the entire penthouse, and she couldn't just skip a room. She pushed the door open and froze. The bedroom was darker than the rest of the apartment, all deep blues and grays. The bed was massive, perfectly made, and looked like it had never been slept in. Everything was as cold and impersonal as the rest of the penthouse, except for one thing. On the nightstand sat a photograph, the only personal item she'd seen in the entire apartment. Adesewa moved closer, curious despite herself. The photo showed a younger Minjae, maybe 17 or 18, standing beside an older man who shared his features. His father, probably. Both wore suits. Neither was smiling, but it was Minjae's eyes that caught her attention. They looked different, haunted, almost afraid. "What are you doing?" Adesewa spun around, her heart leaping into her throat. Minjae stood in the doorway, still in his suit from whatever business he'd been conducting. His expression was unreadable, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. "I was cleaning," Adesewa said, hating how defensive she sounded. "The door was open. This room is off limits. You didn't tell me that. I'm telling you now." He stepped into the room and suddenly the space felt too small. "Juana, do you always explore places you're not invited? Do you always hire people and then expect them to read your mind?" She shot back. His eyebrow lifted. "Still not afraid. Still tired," she corrected. "Look, if you brought me here to play mind games, I don't have the energy. Just tell me what you want me to clean, and I'll clean it. I need this job." "Why?" The question caught her off guard. "What? Why do you need this job?" He moved closer, his eyes locked on hers. "You work at 3 different places. 4 now. You barely sleep. Why?" "That's none of your business. Everything in my city is my business, Miss Ackenwell." She should have been terrified. She should have apologized and run. But exhaustion made her reckless. "My brother," she said quietly. "He's sick. The treatment he needs, it's expensive. So I work." "No, well, that's it. That's the big mystery." Minjae studied her for a long moment. "You came all the way to Korea for work?" "I came because Nigeria couldn't give me what I needed. Neither could anywhere else." She met his gaze. "Money doesn't care about borders. Neither does desperation." Something shifted in his expression. "No," he said softly. "It doesn't." They stood there in the semi-darkness, and Adesewa felt that pull again, that dangerous attraction that made no sense. He was a criminal, a killer, if the rumors were true, everything her mother had warned her against, but his eyes held shadows that matched her own. "Finish cleaning," Minjae said finally, stepping back. "But stay out of this room." "Understood." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "And Adesewa?" She looked up at the sound of her name in his mouth. Get some sleep. You look like you're about to collapse." Then he was gone, leaving her alone in his bedroom with her racing heart and the photograph of a boy who looked afraid. 2 weeks passed in a strange routine. Adesewa cleaned the penthouse 5 days a week, arriving early and leaving late. Minjae was rarely there during her hours, which she told herself was a relief. She was lying to herself, because the truth was, she looked for him, waited for those moments when he'd return early, when they'd cross paths in the hallway or the kitchen, when he'd ask her questions in that quiet, dangerous voice. How is your brother? Did you eat today? Why do you always look so tired? Simple questions, normal questions. But coming from him, they felt like intimacy. Her other jobs had mysteriously disappeared. Not fired, simply unnecessary. A generous severance package had appeared in her bank account from each employer with notes about restructuring and budget changes. Adesewa wasn't stupid. She knew Minjae's hand was behind it. She should have been angry, should have felt manipulated. Instead, she felt relieved, because now she could sleep, could eat proper meals, could send even more money to Lagos for Tunda's care. But relief came with a price: dependence. She was dependent on Minjae now, on his whims, on his interest in her, and that terrified her more than poverty ever had. It was Thursday afternoon when everything changed. Adesewa had finished cleaning the main rooms and was organizing the kitchen. Not because it needed organizing, but because she couldn't bring herself to leave yet. The penthouse had become a strange refuge, quiet, safe, empty of the judgment and invisibility she faced everywhere else in Hanul City. She heard the front door open and close. Then voices, Minjae's and someone else's. Hearing the shipment was compromised, a man was saying. Seong-hun. Director Kwan's people intercepted it at the port. Adesewa's hands stilled on the cabinet she'd been organizing. She should make noise, announce her presence. But something kept her quiet. How much did we lose? Minjae's voice was cold, controlled. Everything. 20 million won, minimum, plus the connections we'd established. Seong-hun paused. He's escalating, sir. This was personal. He left a message. What kind of message? Your father's ring, the one that went missing when he died. Silence, heavy and dangerous. Kwan's had it all along, Minjae said finally, his voice like ice. He was involved in my father's death. It appears so. Then this isn't business anymore. There was movement, footsteps. I want names, everyone involved. Everyone who knew the route, the timing, the contents. Sir, that would include everyone. Adesewa's heart hammered. She should reveal herself. Should. Sir. Seong-hun's voice dropped lower. What about the girl? Her breath caught. What about her? Minjae asked, his tone careful. Kwan knows about her. He's asking questions, having her watched. A pause. She's a liability. She's none of his business. With respect, sir, she is. You've made her your business. That makes her everyone's business. Seong-hun's voice held something Adesewa couldn't quite identify. Concern, warning. The last time you got involved, it didn't end well. That was different. Was it? Because from where I'm standing, you're making the same mistakes. There was a long pause. Sir, I've been with you for 10 years. I've never questioned your judgment. But this woman, she's making you soft, distracted. Kwan sees it. Others see it. It's only a matter of time before... Enough. Minjae's voice cut like a blade. Find me those names. Double security. And Seong-hun? Yes, sir. My personal life is not up for discussion. Understood. Footsteps approached the kitchen. Adesewa's heart hammered as Minjae appeared in the doorway. He stopped when he saw her, his expression unreadable. You're still here, he said. I was just finishing. She grabbed her cleaning supplies with shaking hands. I'll go. No. He held up a hand. Stay. Seong-hun appeared behind him, his sharp eyes taking in the scene. Something flickered across his face. Disapproval? Resignation? Before his expression smoothed to neutrality. Sir, we should discuss this privately, Seong-hun said. Miss Akinwell knows the value of discretion, Minjae said, his gaze never leaving her face. Don't you? It wasn't really a question. I don't hear anything, Adesewa said carefully. I don't see anything. I just clean. Minjae's lips curved slightly. Smart woman. He turned to Seong-hun. Get me those names by morning, and double the security on our remaining operations. Yes, sir. Seong-hun bowed and left. though not before shooting at Adesewa a look that made her skin prickle. Silence fell over the penthouse. "You should go home," Minjae said finally. "It's late. It's 4 in the afternoon. For you, that's late." He moved to the window, hands in his pockets. "Anyway, when was the last time you slept more than 5 hours? Why do you care?" The question came out sharper than she intended. He turned to look at her. "I don't know." The honesty in his voice made her breath catch. "That's not comforting," she said. "I'm not a comforting man, Adesewa." There it was again, her name in his mouth spoken like something precious. "I should go," she said, but her feet didn't move. "You should," he agreed, "but you won't." Arrogant, observant. He moved closer, and she felt that magnetic pull again. "You're curious about me, about this." He gestured around the penthouse. "About why a man like me would notice a woman like you." "Don't," she said, heat flooding her face. "Don't make this about what? About the fact that you're beautiful? That you look at me like I'm human instead of a monster? That you challenge me instead of cowering? Stop! Why?" He was close now, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "Because it scares you? Because you know you feel it too?" "Feel what?" Her voice came out as a whisper. "This." His hand lifted, hovering near her face but not touching. "This impossibility. This thing that shouldn't exist between us." Adesewa's heart hammered so loud she was sure he could hear it. "You're my employer. I'm a criminal. That too. And yet you're still standing here." His voice dropped lower. "Why, Adesewa? Why don't you run?" Because running felt like giving up. Because for the first time in years, someone saw her. Really saw her. Not as a cleaner or an immigrant or a desperate woman, but as herself. "I don't know," she whispered. "Then we're both confused." His hand dropped back to his side. "Go home. Sleep. Come back tomorrow." It wasn't until she was on the street outside Hanul Tower that Adesewa realized she'd been holding her breath, and that she'd made a critical error. She'd overheard things she shouldn't have. About Kwan, about Minjae's father, about herself being watched. The smart thing would be to report it, to tell Minjae what she'd heard, to warn him about Seongun's concerns. But that would mean admitting she'd eavesdropped, that she'd violated his trust. So Adesewa did what she'd always done when faced with impossible choices. She said nothing, and that silence would cost her everything. Friday started like any other day. Adesewa arrived at the penthouse at 9, let herself in with the key Seonghan had given her, and started her routine. Except she felt wrong, off balance. Her head throbbed and her vision kept blurring at the edges. Probably just exhaustion. She'd been pushing too hard, sleeping too little. She'd be fine. She had to be fine. By noon, the penthouse was spinning. Adesewa gripped the edge of the kitchen counter, trying to steady herself. Her legs felt like water. When had she last eaten? Yesterday? The day before? The guilt hit her like a wave. She'd been sending almost all her money to Lagos, keeping barely enough for rent. Food had become optional, sleep a luxury she couldn't afford, and now her body was rebelling. She made it to the bedroom, the forbidden bedroom, before her knees gave out. Just for a moment, she told herself as she collapsed onto the edge of the bed. Just a moment to rest her eyes, to stop the world from tilting. Just a moment. She woke to fingers touching her forehead, gentle, careful. Adesewa's eyes flew open. Minjae knelt beside the bed, his hand still resting against her skin. His expression was tight with something that looked almost like concern. "How long?" he asked quietly. "What?" Her voice came out rough, disoriented. "How long since you've eaten a proper meal? Slept more than a few hours? Taking care of yourself?" Adesewa tried to sit up, but his hand on her shoulder kept her down. "I'm fine," she said. "You collapsed in my bedroom. You're burning up with fever. You're not fine. I just need..." "What? To work yourself to death?" His voice remained calm, but anger flickered in his eyes. "For what? Money? A brother who might never wake up?" The words hit like a slap. "Don't," she said, her own anger rising. "Don't you dare. I'm not trying to hurt you." His hand moved to her wrist, fingers finding her pulse. "I'm trying to understand why you're killing yourself." "Because he's all I have." The words burst out of her, raw and desperate. "Because I crossed an ocean and left everything behind, and if I stop..." If I let myself slow down, I'll have to face the fact that it might all be for nothing, that Tunde might never come back, that I might have sacrificed everything for a hope that doesn't exist. Silence fell between them. Minjae's fingers remained on her wrist, feeling her racing pulse. When he spoke, his voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. Hope isn't nothing. Adesewa. Says the man who's never had to hope for anything, she shot back. You take what you want. You control everything. What do you know about desperation? His jaw tightened. More than you think. He stood abruptly, pulling out his phone. Sung-hun, I need a doctor at the penthouse. Now. Private. Discreet. I don't need a doctor, Adesewa protested, trying to sit up. I just need to rest, to eat, to stop pretending you're invincible. He ended the call and looked down at her. The doctor will be here in 20 minutes. Until then, you're staying in that bed. This is your bed. I'm aware. I shouldn't be here. Probably not. He moved to the door. But you are, so stay. Minjae. He paused at the sound of his name. She'd never said it before. Never dared. Thank you, she said quietly. Something shifted in his expression. Don't thank me yet. The doctor came and went, leaving instructions for rest and proper nutrition. Mild dehydration and exhaustion, he'd said. Nothing serious if she took care of herself. Minjae had listened to every word, his expression unreadable. Now, hours later, Adesewa sat at his kitchen counter while he prepared food. Actual food, not ordering in, cooking. You cook? She asked, too surprised to hide it. I have many skills you don't know about. He set a bowl of soup in front of her. Eat. It smelled incredible. She took a tentative sip and nearly moaned. This is miyaguk, seaweed soup. My mother used to make it. He leaned against the counter, watching her. It's good for recovery. Adesewa ate in silence, feeling his eyes on her. The intimacy of the moment felt dangerous. Aaron, they were crossing lines that shouldn't be crossed. Why are you doing this? She asked finally. Doing what? This. Taking care of me. You could have just sent me home. I could have, he agreed, but I didn't want to. Why not? He was quiet for a long moment. Because for the first time in years, I want something I can't simply take. Her spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. What does that mean? It means you're a complication I didn't expect. He moved closer, his hands gripping the counter on either side of her. It means I think about you when I shouldn't. It means I rearrange my schedule just to see you for 5 minutes. It means you're dangerous in ways that have nothing to do with violence. Adesewa's heart hammered against her ribs. I'm just a cleaner. No. His voice was rough. You're the woman who looked at me like I was human, who challenged me, who made me feel something other than cold calculation. Minjae, tell me you don't feel it, he said. Tell me I'm imagining this thing between us, and I'll back away. I'll keep this professional. Tell me. She should tell him, should lie, should protect herself. But Adesewa Akinwell had been lying to herself for weeks. I can't, she whispered. I feel it too. His eyes darkened with something that made her breath catch. Then we're both in trouble. If this story has you hooked, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me, is this love doomed from the start? Because trust me, it's about to get so much more complicated. Don't go anywhere. Sunday morning, Adesewa let herself into the penthouse with a strange sense of trepidation. Friday's confession hung between them like smoke, impossible to ignore but difficult to grasp. She'd spent the weekend in her tiny apartment, trying to convince herself that what she felt was temporary. Gratitude, maybe, or loneliness. Anything but the terrifying truth that she was falling for a man who lived in darkness. The penthouse was quiet, too quiet. Minjae? She called out, setting down her cleaning supplies. No answer. She moved through the rooms looking for signs of him. The kitchen was clean, the living room untouched, but his office door, usually locked, stood slightly ajar. Adesewa knew better. She'd learned the rules. Don't touch, don't ask, don't explore. But something pulled her forward, a terrible curiosity. A need to understand this man who'd somehow worked his way under her skin. She told herself she'd just peek, just look, just... The office was darker than the rest of the penthouse. all mahogany and leather. A massive desk dominated the space, covered in papers and a laptop. File cabinets lined one wall. The other held weapons, displayed like art. Guns, knives, a sword that looked ancient. She shouldn't be here. She should leave. But her eyes caught on something on the desk, a folder with her name on it. Akinwale, Adesewa. Her hands moved before her brain could stop them. She flipped open the folder and her blood ran cold. Inside were documents about her visa status, her employment history, her bank records, medical files for Tundu, photos of her apartment building, her route to work, at the hospital in Lagos where her brother lay dying, photos of her mother, her siblings, people she'd left behind, everything. He knew everything, and she'd walked right into his penthouse, his bed, his life, without questioning why. Find anything interesting? Adesewa spun around, the folder falling from her hands. Minjae stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. But there was something in his hand, something that caught the light. A knife. Her heart stopped. "You investigated me," she said, her voice shaking with anger and betrayal. "You had people follow me, dig into my life." "Yes." He moved into the room, closing the door behind him. The knife remained in his hand, not threatening, but present, a reminder of what he was. "Why?" "Because I wanted to know who you were." He circled the desk, putting it between them. Surina, the knife spun in his hand, a casual, practiced movement that spoke of violence as second nature. "Because I don't trust easily, because people lie. I never lied to you. Didn't you?" His voice remained calm, which somehow made it worse. "You told me about your brother, but you didn't tell me about the debt collectors in Lagos, the men who threatened your mother, the broken bones and the hospital stays, the reason you really ran." Adesewa's breath caught. "That's none of your business." "It became my business when you walked into my life." The knife stopped spinning. He set it down on the desk with a soft click. "Tell me the truth, Adesewa. All of it." "Or what? You'll hurt me?" She laughed, the sound bitter. "Go ahead. I've been hurt before." "I'm not going to hurt you." His voice softened. "But I need to know who you are. Why what you're running from. Because the people I deal with, they'll use any weakness against me. And you? I'm a weakness? Yes." The admission seemed to cost him something. "You are." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Adesewa's anger cracked, and beneath it was exhaustion, soul-deep weariness. She was so tired of running, of hiding, of pretending to be stronger than she felt. And looking at this dangerous man who'd somehow become the only person who really saw her, she made another mistake. She told him the truth. "Fine," she said, her voice hollow. "You want the truth? Here it is." She told him everything. About the money Tunde had borrowed from the wrong people to pay for their mother's surgery. About the accident that had left him brain damaged and unable to pay. About the collectors who'd come to their house with threats and violence. "They broke my mother's arm," she said, the memories flooding back. "Beat my younger brother until he couldn't walk for a week. All because Tunde couldn't pay. So I made a deal." "What kind of deal?" Minjae asked quietly. "I told them I'd work, send money, pay off the debt bit by bit." She wrapped her arms around herself. "But it wasn't enough. It's never enough. The interest keeps growing. And now they're asking for more than I can give." "How much?" 50 million won. By the end of the year." She laughed bitterly. "Might as well be 50 billion. I'll never make that kind of money. And if you don't pay," she met his eyes, "they'll kill my family, starting with my mother. They were very specific about that." Silence fell between them. Minjae moved around the desk and she tensed, but he stopped just out of reach. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I don't know you," the words burst out. "I don't know if you're trying to help me or control me or—" Her voice broke. "Everyone who helps me wants something in return. Everyone. And I can't owe anyone else. I can't be dependent. I learned that lesson a long time ago." "From who?" "My father. He left when I was 10. Took everything. The money, the house deed, our security. Left us with nothing because we depended on him." Tears burned her eyes. My mother nearly died because we couldn't afford her treatment. Tunde borrowed from criminals because we had no other options. Every time we trusted someone, we lost everything. I'm not your father, Minjae said. No, you're worse. She met his eyes. You're the kind of man who destroys people for a living. And somehow I'm stupid enough to... She stopped herself, but it was too late. To what? He pressed, moving closer. Nothing. Say it. No. Adesewa. He reached out, and his fingers brushed her cheek with devastating gentleness. Say it. To care about you, she whispered, hating herself for the truth. I'm stupid enough to care about you. The words seemed to break something in him. He closed the distance between them, his hand cupping her face. If I help your brother, he said quietly, will you hate me for it? The question caught her off guard. What? If I use my money, my connections, my influence to save Tunde, will you hate me? Will you think it's manipulation? Control? Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Why would you do that? Because watching you destroy yourself is destroying me. His thumb brushed away her tears. Because I want to give you something without expecting anything in return. Because maybe if I do this one good thing, I'll feel less like the monster I've become. You're not a monster. I am. His voice was hard. I've killed people, Adesewa. Ordered deaths, destroyed lives. I am exactly what you should fear. Then why don't I? She looked up at him through her tears. Why do I feel safer with you than I've felt in years? He had no answer. Instead, he did something that surprised them both. He pulled her into his arms and held her while she cried. No words, no promises, just his solid presence and the steady beat of his heart against her ear. And for the first time since coming to Hanel City, Adesewa let herself break, but in the back of her mind, a small voice whispered a warning. She'd made a mistake. She'd told him about the debt collectors, about the danger to her family. She'd given him leverage. And men like Kang Minjae always collected on their leverage. The kiss happened 3 days later. Adesewa had tried to maintain distance after her breakdown in Minjae's office. Tried to remember that he was dangerous, that this was impossible, that she was setting herself up for heartbreak. But Minjae had other plans. He started showing up during her cleaning hours. Not hovering, just present, working at his laptop in the living room while she cleaned the kitchen. Reading reports while she dusted. Always there, always watching, always close enough to talk. They talked about everything and nothing. Her childhood in Lagos, his education in the States, her love of cooking, his hatred of small talk. The comfortable silences between words felt more intimate than the conversations. And through it all, the tension built like a gathering storm. Wednesday afternoon, when she was reaching for a high shelf in the kitchen when she lost her balance. Strong hands caught her waist, steadying her. Minjae's hands. Careful, he murmured, but he didn't let go. Adesewa turned in his grip, and suddenly they were inches apart, his hands warm on her waist, her breath catching, his eyes dark with something that made her pulse race. We shouldn't, she whispered. I know. This is a terrible idea. The worst. Minjae, he kissed her. It wasn't gentle or romantic. It was messy and desperate and angry. Angry at the circumstances that made this wrong, at the impossibility of what they felt, at the world that had put them on opposite sides of every line that mattered. Adesewa kissed him back just as desperately, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer even as her mind screamed at her to stop. When he tasted like coffee and danger, and she wanted more, wanted everything, wanted to drown in this terrible, beautiful mistake. His hands slid up her back into her hair, tilting her head for better access. She gasped against his mouth, and he swallowed the sound, kissing her deeper, harder, like he was trying to memorize her. It was too much, not enough, everything. Then reality crashed back. Adesewa jerked away, nearly stumbling in her haste to put distance between them. Her lips felt swollen, her heart hammered, her mind reeled. I can't, she gasped. I can't do this. Minjae's chest heaved, his control visibly fraying. Adesewa. No. She backed toward the door. This is wrong. You're my employer. You're a criminal. I work for you. We can't. I know all the reasons this is impossible. he said, his voice rough. Cho, I've listed them every night when I can't sleep because I'm thinking about you. Then why did you kiss me? Because I'm tired of pretending I don't want to. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. Because you kissed me back. Because this thing between us won't disappear just because we ignore it. It has to. Tears burned her eyes. Because I can't survive losing someone else I care about. And being with you, loving you. It's suicide. She ran before he could respond, before she could take it back, before she could make an even bigger mistake. Like admitting she was already in love with him. Adesewa quit. She sent Seong-hun a formal resignation email that night, citing personal reasons. She'd find another job. Somehow. She'd survive without Minjae's money, his protection, his presence. She had to, because the alternative was losing herself completely. By Friday, she was working at a small restaurant in the outskirts of Hanul City. The pay was terrible, the hours brutal, but it was honest work, safe work. Work that didn't involve dangerous men with dark eyes and gentle hands. The restaurant was busy that evening, some kind of business dinner happening in the private room. Adesewa kept her head down, serving food and clearing tables, trying not to think about the penthouse or the man who haunted her thoughts. She was carrying a tray of drinks when she saw him. Minjae sat at the head of the table in the private room, surrounded by men in expensive suits. Business associates probably, or criminals. With him, the line was blurred. Their eyes met through the doorway. Adesewa's hands trembled and the glasses rattled on her tray. She looked away quickly, but not before seeing the flash of hurt in his expression. Good. Let him hurt. Let him feel a fraction of what she felt every time she thought about him. She delivered the drinks to another table and headed back to the kitchen. She wouldn't serve his room, wouldn't get close, wouldn't. She noticed the men at the next table. They weren't eating, weren't talking, just watching Minjae's room with the focused intensity of predators. One of them caught her looking. His hand moved to his jacket. Adesewa's instinct screamed. She knew that look, had seen it in Lagos when the debt collectors came. The cold calculation before violence. These men were going to kill Minjae. She should walk away, should let it happen. He was a criminal, a dangerous man. The world would probably be better off without him. But her feet were already moving. Adesewa burst into the private room. Everyone down! The explosion cut off her words. Glass shattered. People screamed. Adesewa hit the floor as gunfire erupted, the sound deafening in the confined space. Panic. Chaos. Bodies running. More gunshots. Through the smoke and confusion, she saw Minjae, still in the private room, surrounded by men she didn't recognize. Not his people. Rivals. One of them raised a gun, aimed at Minjae's head. She didn't think. Didn't hesitate. Adesewa grabbed a serving tray and hurled it at the gunman. The heavy metal connected with his arm, throwing off his aim. The shot went wide, hitting the wall instead of Minjae's skull. "Run!" she screamed at Minjae. He moved instantly, tackling her to the ground as more bullets flew. They rolled behind an overturned table, his body covering hers, protecting her from the chaos. "What are you doing?" he demanded, his voice harsh with fear and anger. "Saving you, apparently. You could have been killed. So could you." More gunfire. Minjae pulled a gun from somewhere. Of course he had a gun, and returned fire with cold precision. Men fell. Others ran. In the distance, sirens wailed. Then silence. Minjae pulled Adesewa to her feet, his hands running over her frantically. "Are you hurt? Did they hit you?" "I'm fine, He kissed her, hard and desperate and grateful. "Hey, don't ever do that again." "Save your life? Put yourself in danger for me." His hands cupped her face. "Promise me." "I can't promise that." His jaw clenched. "Adesewa, you protected me first," she said. "You covered me. You could have run, but you didn't." "Of course I didn't." He looked at her like she was insane for even suggesting it. "You think I'd leave you in danger? Why not? I'm just your cleaner. Your complication. You're mine," he said fiercely. "Whether you work for me or not. Whether you run from me or not. You saved my life tonight, and I've been protecting yours since the moment you spilled champagne on me. So don't pretend this is one-sided." Adesewa's breath caught. This is insane. Yes, we're going to destroy each other. Probably. I should walk away right now. You should. His thumb brushed her cheek. Will you? She looked into his eyes, this dangerous, deadly man who'd somehow become her safe place, and knew the answer. No, she whispered. God help me, no. He kissed her again, softer this time, a promise and a threat and a future that terrified her. Outside, the sirens grew louder. We need to go, Minjae said. Before the police arrive with questions, neither of us can answer. Where? Somewhere safe. He laced his fingers with hers. Trust me. And despite every reason not to, Adesewa did. The rooftop garden atop one of Minjae's properties was nothing like his cold penthouse. Plants grew wild here, flowers blooming in defiance of the concrete jungle below. String lights created a canopy of stars, and the city sprawled beneath them like a sea of light. I didn't know this existed, Adesewa said, accepting the glass of wine he offered. I come here when I need to remember I'm human. He sat beside her on the cushioned bench, close but not touching. When the blood gets too loud. The blood. The things I've done. The people I've hurt. He stared out at the city. Some nights I can't wash it off. Adesewa studied his profile. The sharp lines, the controlled expression that hid so much. Why did you choose this life? I didn't choose it. It chose me. He took a long drink. Where's my father built the White Serpent Syndicate from nothing. Made it powerful. Made it feared. When he died, I was 17. The choice was simple. Take control or watch everything he built get torn apart by rivals. So you became him. Worse than him. His voice was hollow. He had lines he wouldn't cross. I crossed all of them. Why? Because mercy is weakness in this world. Because the moment you hesitate, you die. He looked at her finally. I learned that lesson early. I've never forgotten it. Until me, Adesewa said quietly. Until you. He set down his glass. You make me hesitate, make me question, make me want things I gave up years ago. Like what? A normal life, mornings without blood, a future that doesn't end in violence. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. You. Her breath caught. Haha, Minjae. I'm not good for you, he continued. I'm everything you should run from. But I'm selfish enough to ask you to stay anyway. This terrifies me, she admitted. Loving you terrifies me more than poverty, more than failure, more than losing Tundi. Why? Because I've lost everything before, but I've never lost someone I couldn't live without. Tears burned her eyes, and I don't know if I could survive losing you. He pulled her close, and she went willingly, tucking herself against his chest. His heartbeat was steady beneath her ear, grounding her. I can't promise you safety, he said into her hair. I can't promise you forever, but I can promise that while I'm breathing, no one will hurt you. That's all I have to offer. It's enough, she whispered. They sat in silence as the city glittered below. How two people who shouldn't fit finding comfort in the impossibility of what they'd become. I have something to tell you, Minjae said finally, about your brother. Adesewa pulled back to look at him. What about Tunde? I've arranged for him to be transferred to Hanul City. There's a facility here, one of the best in Asia. They specialize in traumatic brain injuries and recovery. Her heart stopped. What? The surgery he needs, the treatment, it's already paid for. He arrives next week. Shock rendered her speechless. Tunde, here, getting treatment, living. I don't understand, she managed. How? Why? Because you're killing yourself trying to save him. Because I can help. Because I want to give you something that matters. I can't accept this. Even as she said it, her heart was already accepting, already hoping. Heck, it's too much. It's nothing. He cupped her face. Money means nothing to me, Adesewa. But you mean everything. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I don't know what to say. Say you'll let me do this. Say you'll stop carrying this alone. I'm afraid, she admitted. Afraid of owing you. Afraid of what it means. It means I care about you. That's all. But they both knew it was more than that. It was a chain, beautiful and binding. It was dependence wrapped in generosity. It was love disguised as help, and Adesewa was too tired to fight it anymore. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." He kissed her forehead and she felt the shift between them, the point of no return. She was his now, in ways that had nothing to do with employment and everything to do with the heart she'd given him without permission. God help them both. The message came on a Tuesday. "Chairwoman Kang requests your presence for tea tomorrow at 3, Hanul Grand Hotel." Adesewa stared at the text from Seong-hun, her stomach churning with dread. Minjae's mother, the woman who'd built the White Serpent Syndicate alongside her husband, the woman who was rumored to be more dangerous than any man in the organization, and she wanted to meet the Nigerian woman sleeping with her son. "Don't go," Minjae said when she told him. "She's trying to intimidate you." "If I don't go, I look weak, afraid." "You should be afraid." His voice was harsh. "My mother doesn't invite people to tea. She summons them to judgment." "Then I'll be judged." Adesewa met his eyes. "I'm not hiding from her. If she wants to meet me, I'll meet her." Pride and concern warred in his expression. I'll come with you." "No, this is between her and me." "Adesewa, if I'm going to be in your life, I need to face her on my own." She touched his face. "Trust me." He caught her hand, kissed her palm. "I trust you. It's her I don't trust." The Hanul Grand Hotel's tea room was elegant and understated, all white tablecloths and delicate china. Chairwoman Kang sat by the window, looking like royalty in a cream suit, her silver hair styled perfectly. She smiled when Adesewa approached. It didn't reach her eyes. "Miss Akinwell, how kind of you to join me." "Mrs. Kang." Adesewa sat, keeping her spine straight, her expression neutral. "Please call me chairwoman. Everyone does." She poured tea with practiced grace. "You're probably wondering why I asked to meet you. I assume it's about your son." "Perceptive." The chairwoman's smile widened slightly. "I like that. Minjae has always preferred intelligent women." "Preferred?" "Oh, yes. You're not the first woman to catch his attention." She sipped her tea. "Though I admit, you've lasted longer than most." 3 months now?" Adesewa's chest tightened. "I'm not interested in his previous relationships." "Of course not. But you should be interested in what happened to them." "Did you hurt them?" "Me? No." The chairwoman looked genuinely amused. "I didn't have to. My son is very good at destroying the things he loves all on his own." The words landed like blows. "You don't know him," Adesewa said quietly. "I gave birth to him, raised him, trained him to take over this empire." The chairwoman set down her cup. "I know him better than anyone, and I know that his love is poison." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're different from the others. You're not here for money or status. You actually care about him." She leaned forward. "That makes you dangerous." "To who?" "To yourself, to him, to everything we've built." The chairwoman's eyes hardened. "Minjae is the head of the White Serpent Syndicate. He has responsibilities, enemies, expectations, a foreign girlfriend with a sick brother and no connections. You're a liability. I never asked to be anything to him, but you are, and that's the problem." She pulled an envelope from her purse and slid it across the table. "Inside is a cashier's check for 5 million won. Enough to pay for your brother's treatment anywhere in the world. Enough to start a new life, plus citizenship papers for any country you choose." Adesewa stared at the envelope like it was a snake. "In exchange for what?" "For leaving. Today, cleanly. No drama, no goodbye." The chairwoman's voice remained pleasant. "You disappear, and your brother gets the life he deserves. You stay, and I can't guarantee either of your safety." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm being honest with you, which is more than most people in our world get." She reached out and patted Adesewa's hand. "I'm not a monster, dear. I'm a mother protecting her son. And my son destroys everything he loves. It's not malicious. It's simply who he is." Adesewa pulled her hand back. "You don't think much of him." "I think the world of him. That's why I'm trying to save you both." The chairwoman stood, gathering her purse. "Take the envelope. Think about it. But don't think too long. My patience has limits." She walked away, leaving Adesewa alone with the tea and the envelope, and the terrible weight of choice. Adesewa didn't take the money, but she didn't throw it away either. That night, lying in Minjae's arms in his bed, she couldn't stop thinking about the chairwoman's words. "My son destroys everything he loves." "You're quiet," Minjae murmured, his fingers tracing patterns on her shoulder. "Your mother offered me money to leave you." His hand stilled. "How much?" 5 million won, plus citizenship papers." "That's generous." His voice was carefully neutral. "Are you taking it?" "No." "Why not?" She turned to look at him. "Because I'm apparently an idiot who's in love with you." Something raw and vulnerable flashed in his eyes. "Say that again." "Which part? The idiot part?" "The love part." "I love you." The words felt like jumping off a cliff. "I know I shouldn't. I know it's dangerous and stupid and probably going to end in disaster. But I love you." He kissed her, soft and desperate and grateful. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not. I'll hurt you eventually. Disappoint you. Fail you. Probably. And you still love me?" "Unfortunately, yes." She touched his face. "So what do? We take whatever time we have." He pulled her closer. "We love each other while we can. And when it ends." "If it ends." "When it ends," he repeated firmly. "We'll deal with it then." It wasn't a promise of forever. It wasn't even a promise of tomorrow. But it was honest, and in that moment, honesty was enough. Tunde arrived on a Thursday. Adesewa stood in the hospital room at the exclusive facility Minjae had arranged, watching as doctors settled her brother into the bed. He looked so small, so fragile, nothing like the energetic boy who used to make her laugh. "Sewa!" She turned. Her mother stood in the doorway, aged beyond her years but still beautiful. Tears streamed down her face. "Mama?" Adesewa crossed the room and fell into her mother's embrace. They held each other and cried. For Tunde, for the years of struggle, for the hope that felt too fragile to trust. "How did you arrange this?" her mother asked. "The doctors in Lagos said, I know someone with resources." Her mother pulled back, studying her face. "This someone, is he good to you?" "Yes." "Do you love him?" Adesewa hesitated. Her mother had always been able to read her. "Yes," she admitted. Her mother's expression grew concerned. But he's complicated, dangerous. His world." "Does he love you?" "I think so." "Does he hurt you?" "No. Never." Her mother cupped Adesewa's face. "Then the rest doesn't matter. Love is rare, baby girl. Don't throw it away because you're afraid." "I'm terrified, Mama." "Good. That means it matters." She kissed Adesewa's forehead. "Now introduce me to the man who saved my son." Minjae arrived an hour later with Seong-hun and another man Adesewa didn't recognize. He wore a suit that probably cost more than her mother made in a year, but he bowed respectfully when introduced. "Mrs. Akinwale, it's an honor." Her mother studied him with the intensity of a woman who'd survived poverty and heartbreak. "You're the one who brought my son here." "Yes, ma'am." "Why?" The question hung in the air. Seong-hun shifted uncomfortably, his eyes flickering between Minjae and Adesewa, with an expression she couldn't quite read. Disapproval? Something else? "Because your daughter was killing herself trying to do it alone," Minjae said simply, "and I couldn't watch that." "You love her." It wasn't a question, but Minjae answered anyway. "Yes." "Will you hurt her?" "Not intentionally, but my world is dangerous. I can't promise her safety." "I'm not asking about safety." Her mother moved closer. "I'm asking if you'll break her heart." Minjae met her eyes. "I hope not. But I'm not a good man, Mrs. Akinwale. I've done things that would make you pull your daughter away from me. If I could guarantee she'd be happy, I'd walk away. But I'm too selfish for that." Her mother was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She hugged him. "Thank you for bringing my son home," she said. "And thank you for taking care of my daughter." Minjae looked stunned. Carefully, he returned the embrace. "I'll protect her with my life." "See that you do." Watching them, Adesewa felt something shift in her chest. This was real. This was happening. Her two worlds, the one she'd left behind and the one she'd found, were colliding. And maybe, just maybe, they could coexist. The surgery was scheduled for the following week. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. The procedure was experimental but promising. There were risks. There were always risks. But there was also hope. Real, tangible hope. Adesewa spent every spare moment at the hospital, talking to Tunde even though he couldn't respond, telling him about Hanyul City and her life and the man she loved. Minjae visited when he could, which wasn't often. His world was escalating. Director Kwan's syndicate was making aggressive moves, testing boundaries, pushing for war. I should stay away, he told Adesewa one night as they sat in Tunde's room. Being close to me puts you and your family in danger. Then we'll be in danger together. Adesewa, no. She took his hand. I'm not letting you push me away because you're scared. We're in this together now. He kissed her knuckles. Stubborn woman. Stubborn man. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Tunde's chest rise and fall, neither acknowledging the storm gathering on the horizon. Behind them, in the doorway, Hak Seung-hun watched with an expression that bordered on pain. He'd served Minjae for 10 years, watched him build an empire, seen him destroy anyone who threatened what he'd built. But he'd never seen Minjae like this. Soft, distracted, vulnerable. And Seung-hun knew what happened to vulnerable leaders in their world. They died. The call came at 2 a.m. Sir, Seung-hun's voice was tight. We have a situation. Minjae was out of bed instantly. What kind of situation? Director Kwan just hit 3 of our warehouses, simultaneously. And there's something else. What? He knows about the girl. The world stopped. Minjae looked at Adesewa, who'd woken at the commotion. Fear lanced through his chest, cold and sharp. Put security on the hospital, he ordered. Triple guard. No one gets near the Akinwell family without clearance. Already done. And Adesewa, bring her to the compound, now. No, Adesewa said, standing. I'm not leaving my family. He'll use you to get to me, Minjae said, his voice harsh with fear. Do you understand? He'll take you, hurt you, kill you just to send a message. Then protect us all. But I'm not running. He wanted to argue, wanted to lock her away somewhere safe. But he knew that look in her eyes, the same stubborn determination that had made her challenge him from the beginning. Fine, he said, but you do exactly what I say. No arguments, no risks. Agreed. He pulled her close, breathing in her scent, memorizing the feel of her in his arms, because he had a terrible feeling that time was running out. This story is spiraling toward a devastating climax. If you're on the edge of your seat, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Can love survive in a world built on violence? Keep watching. You won't believe what happens next. The next 48 hours were a nightmare of paranoia and protection. Minjae moved his entire operation to fortified locations. Guards surrounded the hospital. Adesewa wasn't allowed to go anywhere alone. And still, Director Kwan waited. He's planning something big, Seung-hun said during a strategy meeting. This quiet? It's deliberate. Let him plan, Minjae said coldly. We'll be ready. But privately, he wasn't so sure. Kwan was smart, patient, willing to wait for the perfect moment to strike, and the perfect moment was coming. Tunde's surgery was scheduled for Monday, when Adesewa would be distracted, vulnerable, perfect prey. Minjae doubled security anyway, assigned his best men to protect her family, and prepared for war. Sunday night, he found Adesewa on the hospital rooftop, staring at the city lights. You should be inside, he said. I needed air. To think. About? What comes after? She looked at him. If Tunde wakes up, if he's okay, what then? Do I stay in Korea? Go back to Nigeria? Keep cleaning houses? You could do anything you want. Could I? She turned fully to face him. Or am I just your possession now? The thing you protect? The weakness you keep hidden? The words stung because they held truth. You're not a possession, he said. Then what am I? Everything. The admission cost him. You're everything, Adesewa. And that terrifies me because everyone I love dies or leaves or gets destroyed by my world. I'm not afraid of your world. You should be. She crossed to him, taking his hands. I told you I love you. I meant it. All of it. The danger, the complications, the impossible future. I choose this. I choose you. He kissed her desperately, pouring all his fear and love and need into the contact. She responded just as fiercely, her hands fisting in his shirt, holding him close. "Promise me something," he said against her lips. "What?" "If this goes wrong tomorrow, if Kwon makes his move, you run. You take your family and you disappear." "Minjae, promise me." "I can't promise." His voice broke on the word. Adesewa saw the fear in his eyes, real, raw terror, and she understood. He wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of failing to protect her. "I promise," she lied, because she had no intention of running, not from him, not from this. They held each other under the stars, two people who'd found love in the darkest place, preparing for the storm that would test whether that love could survive. Monday morning dawned cold and gray. Tunde's surgery was scheduled for noon. The doctors were confident. Her mother was hopeful. Adesewa was terrified for entirely different reasons. Minjae had left before dawn, called away by some urgent business he wouldn't explain. But he'd left 20 guards around the hospital, all armed, all watching. "You really care about us, don't you?" her mother said as they waited in the pre-op room. "More than I should," Adesewa admitted. "There's no such thing as too much love, baby." Adesewa wished she could believe that. At 11:30, Seong-hun appeared. "Miss Akinwell, I need to speak with you, privately." Warning bells rang in Adesewa's head, but she followed him into the hallway. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, I just—" He looked uncomfortable. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Doubt, regret. "I wanted to give you something. From Minjae." He handed her an envelope. Inside was a letter in Minjae's handwriting. "Adesewa, if you're reading this, something has gone wrong. Director Kwon has proposed a meeting. Neutral ground, just us. I don't trust it, but I have to go. Too many lives depend on it. I've arranged for your family's safety regardless of what happens to me. Papers, money, protection, it's all in place. You'll never have to worry about them again. I love you. I should have said it more. Should have shown you in ways that didn't involve danger and darkness. You deserve better than what I could give you. Don't mourn me. Just live. Be happy. That's all I ever wanted." Minjae Adesewa's hands shook as she read it. "Where is he?" "At the old warehouse district. The meeting is a trap." She looked at Seong-hun. "You know it's a trap." His silence was answer enough, but there was something else in his expression now, something that looked almost like pain. "Take me to him." "I can't. He ordered me to keep you here. Then I'll find him myself." She started for the elevator. Seong-hun grabbed her arm. For a moment, he just stood there, warring with something internal. "You'll die," he said finally. "Then I'll die with him." She met his eyes. "Let me go, or move me yourself." For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then Seong-hun's grip loosened. The West Warehouse, Pier 17. He pulled out his gun, checked it. His hands trembled slightly. "I'll drive." The warehouse district was exactly as desolate as Adesewa expected. Abandoned buildings, rusted machinery, the smell of salt water and decay. Seong-hun's car screeched to a halt outside the largest warehouse. "Stay in the car," he ordered. "Not a chance." "Adesewa!" Gunfire erupted from inside the building. They both ran. The warehouse interior was chaos. Men fighting, shooting, dying. Adesewa saw Minjae immediately, surrounded by Director Kwon's men, fighting with cold efficiency, even as blood ran down his arm. "Minjae!" she screamed. His head snapped toward her. "No! Get out!" But it was too late. Rough hands grabbed Adesewa from behind. A gun pressed to her temple. "Stop!" Director Kwon's voice rang out. "Everyone stop, or the girl dies." The fighting ceased. Minjae stood frozen, his gun still raised, his eyes locked on Adesewa with pure terror. "Let her go," he said, his voice deadly calm. "This is between us." "Is it?" Kwon smiled, pressing the gun harder against Adesewa's head. She whimpered and something murderous flickered across Minjae's face. "I think the girl is very much part of this. Your weakness, your soft spot. Name your price." "Everything." Kwon gestured around the warehouse. "The syndicate, your territory, your assets, all of it. Sign it over, and she lives." "Done." "Minjae, no!" Adesewa started. Shut up! Minjae's eyes never left Kwon. I'll sign whatever you want. Just let her go. Show me the documents first. Minjae nodded to Seong-hun, who pulled out a tablet and began pulling up files. Transfer documents, asset lists, everything that made the White Serpent Syndicate powerful. So what, you're really going to give it all up for her? Kwon sounded almost disappointed. The great Kang Minjae, destroyed by love. How pathetic. The syndicate is just business, Minjae said. She's everything. He signed. Document after document, transferring decades of power with a few stylus strokes. There, he said finally. It's done. Now let her go. Kwon smiled. I don't think so. Seong-hun moved. Fast, professional. He pulled a gun and shot Kwon's man, then turned it on Minjae. I'm sorry, sir, Seong-hun said, and for a moment his voice actually sounded genuine, pained. But change is necessary. Adesewa watched in horror as Seong-hun shot Minjae in the shoulder, then again in the leg. Minjae went down, blood pooling beneath him. No! Adesewa screamed, struggling against her captor. The chairwoman, sends her regards, Seong-hun said, his voice flat now. All emotion drained. She wanted me to tell you this was always the plan. You were too weak, too distracted. The syndicate needs stronger leadership. My mother, Minjae coughed blood, has been planning this for months. The girl was bait. Kwon was the weapon. And I. He paused, and for just a second, something like regret flickered across his face. I'm the future. Kwon released Adesewa roughly. Burn it. Men appeared with gasoline, splashing it across the warehouse floor. No, please. Adesewa crawled toward Minjae. Leave her, Seong-hun said. Let her burn with him. Poetic. They left. All of them, leaving Adesewa and Minjae in a warehouse, rapidly filling with gasoline fumes. You need to run, Minjae gasped, his face pale from blood loss. Shut up. Adesewa ripped off her jacket, pressing it against his shoulder wound. I'm not leaving you. Adesewa, I promised you I'd choose you. I meant it. Tears streamed down her face. So stop talking and help me get you out of here. A match hit the gasoline. Fire erupted across the warehouse floor, racing toward them with terrifying speed. Adesewa hooked her arms under Minjae's and pulled. He was heavy, bleeding, barely conscious. But she dragged him anyway, her muscles screaming, her lungs burning from smoke. Leave me, he mumbled. Save yourself. Never. The exit was so far, too far. The fire surrounded them, cutting off escape routes. Adesewa kept pulling. Her hands slipped on his blood, her vision blurred from smoke. But she didn't stop. I love you, she sobbed. Don't you dare die. Don't you dare leave me. She found a hole in the wall, probably from earlier gunfire. Small, but maybe big enough. She pushed Minjae through first, then squeezed after him. They tumbled onto the dock outside, the warehouse exploding behind them in a fireball. Fresh air, safety, survival. Adesewa cradled Minjae's head in her lap, checking his pulse. Weak, but there. We made it, she whispered. We made it. His eyes fluttered open. Stubborn woman. Stubborn man. He smiled weakly. Then his eyes widened, looking past her. Adesewa. She turned. Seong-hun stood there, gun raised, his expression carefully blank. But his hand trembled. I really am sorry, he said, but loose ends must be tied. The gunshot echoed across the water. Minjae jerked in Adesewa's arms. Blood bloomed across his chest. New, fresh, fatal. No! Adesewa screamed, pressing her hands against the wound even as blood poured between her fingers. No! 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 This is mercy, Seong-hun said, but his voice cracked on the word. Better a quick death than the chairwoman's torture. He walked away and Adesewa could swear she saw his shoulders shake. Minjae, stay with me, Adesewa begged, her hands slick with his blood. Please, please don't go. His hand found hers, weak and trembling. Love you, he whispered. I love you too. So much. So stay. Please stay. But his eyes were closing, his breathing shallow, his pulse fading beneath her desperate fingers. In the distance, sirens wailed. Too late. Always too late. 6 months later, Adesewa sat in Tunde's hospital room, watching her brother read. Actually read. A medical textbook of all things. The surgery had worked better than anyone expected. He was back. Not all the way, but enough. A miracle. She should have been celebrating. Instead, she felt hollow. Minjae had survived. Barely. Emergency surgery, weeks in intensive care, months of recovery. He was alive, but he might as well have been dead. Chairwoman Kang had moved him to an undisclosed location the moment he was stable enough to transport. Adesewa wasn't allowed to see him. Chairwoman's orders. For his protection, for hers. The chairwoman herself had visited exactly once, 2 weeks after the warehouse fire. "You saved my son's life," she'd said, her expression unreadable. "For that, you have my gratitude. And my warning, stay away from him. His world is no longer safe for you." "It never was," Adesewa had replied, "and yet you loved him anyway." The chairwoman had studied her. Foolish, but brave. He's recovering in a secure location. When he's strong enough, he'll disappear. Start over, build something new. Without me, without anyone. The chairwoman had stood to leave. "It's better this way, for both of you." "Does he know I'm alive?" "Yes." "Did he ask about me?" A pause. "Every day." Then she'd left, taking any hope of a future with her. Adesewa's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. The rooftop garden. Midnight. Come alone. Her heart stopped. She shouldn't go. It was dangerous, probably a trap. The chairwoman had made it clear that contact was forbidden. But it was Minjae. So at midnight, she stood in the rooftop garden where they'd shared wine and confessions under the stars, waiting. "You came." She turned. Minjae stood in the shadows, leaning heavily on a cane, his body still bearing the evidence of his near death. Thinner, paler, but alive. Breathing. Real. "You're supposed to be in hiding," she said, her voice trembling. "I've never been good at following orders." He moved closer, each step measured and painful. "How's your brother?" "Awake, talking, remembering things." Tears burned her eyes. "The surgery worked. He's even thinking about medical school." "Good." His voice was soft. "That's good." They stood in silence, the city glittering below them, 6 months of separation hanging between them like a chasm. "I crossed the world to save my brother," Adesewa said finally, her voice breaking. "And I never expected to lose my heart, especially not to the man who gave me one." "You didn't lose it." Minjae reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek. "I still have it. I'll always have it. But we can't." "I know." Pain flickered in his eyes. "My mother's right. My world will destroy you if you stay. It almost did. So what now? Now you live. You take care of Tunda. You go back to school, build the life you deserve." His hand dropped. "And you forget about the monster who loved you." "I could never forget you." "Then remember me kindly." He kissed her forehead, his lips lingering. "Goodbye, Adesewa. This isn't fair." "No, but it's right." He stepped back, and she saw the effort it cost him. "You saved my life. Let me save yours by letting you go." "Where will you go?" "Somewhere far from here. Far from Kwan. Far from my mother's syndicate." A ghost of a smile crossed his lips. "I'm told Southeast Asia is beautiful this time of year." "Alone?" "It's safer that way." Tears streamed down her face. "I love you." "I love you too. That's why I'm doing this." He took another step back. "Be happy, Adesewa. Live. Love someone who can give you the life you deserve." "What about you?" "I'll survive. That's what I do." He turned toward the exit. "Goodbye." "Minjae." He paused but didn't turn back. "Thank you," she whispered. "For everything. For Tunda. For seeing me. For loving me." His shoulders tensed. For a moment she thought he might turn back, might change his mind, might choose her over safety. But he didn't. He walked away, disappearing into the shadows, taking her heart with him. Adesewa stood alone in the garden, her tears streaming down her face, her heart shattered but still beating. She'd come to Hanyul City invisible and desperate. She'd leave it visible and loved, even if that love had to die for her to survive. The Mafia boss had liked them black, especially her, and that had been both her salvation and her tragedy. If this story destroyed you, like it destroyed me, smash that subscribe button because part 2 is coming and you do not want to miss what happens next. Will Adesewa and Minjae find their way back to each other? Can love survive when the whole world is against them? Will Tunde's recovery bring new complications? And what really happened to Songhun? Was his betrayal as simple as it seemed? Comment below with your theories and hit that like button if you're ready for more forbidden romance, more danger, and more impossible love. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter of this devastating love story.